Welcome back everybody to our lecture series of microprocessors and microcontrollers. Today is our lecture 23. In this lecture, we will be starting our unit 2, that is about the microcontroller 8051. So what all the different things we have seen for our microprocessor 8086 in unit 1, the similar things we will be discussing about the 8051 in this particular unit. So let us start. In our today's lecture, we will be talking about the overview of 8051 microcontroller, and before doing that overview, we shall also be talking about a few definitions, obviously the definition of microcontroller, and also we will be comparing a microprocessor with the microcontroller, which gives you an understanding clearly that how exactly these two devices are different and in what sense they are similar. So overview of 8051. We will start this by discussing the definition of a microcontroller. A microcontroller is a compact IC. Okay, here it is used for governing a specific operation in an embedded system. And what is an embedded system? Embedded system is the one in which we have a hardware and a designed software to work together to accomplish a given task. Here, generally a typical microcontroller includes a processor, a memory, and I/O devices inside a single IC. Unlike the microprocessor, where these devices, that means the memory and input-output peripherals, has to be interfaced externally to the processor to make it work as a complete system. So I'll take you back to one particular slide which I have used for my class 1, lecture 1 of this series. Here you can see the different devices, the microprocessor and a microcontroller for your understanding. Here is the image of a microprocessor Core i7, and here are a few examples of the microcontroller. Now, a microprocessor, as we have discussed in our first unit, it is just an CPU which consists of a ALU and a control unit. Okay, that will be generally in this particular block. And remaining all the different modules, the RAM, the ROM, the IO devices, the timers and serial communication ports has to be interfaced externally to the processor to make it to work as a system. So what does it have? It has this ALU and CU inside it, and the remaining peripherals are interfaced externally to make it to work as a complete system. But that is not the case with this microcontrollers. Microcontrollers, these all things what we have seen in the earlier slide, they all come together in a single IC package, and that is why this is called as a small microcomputer also. Okay, and here are some examples of the microcontrollers, that is a Motorola's 6800, Intel's 8051. These were the two competitors at the time when this microcontroller was released. The 8051 microcontroller was released, and also we have different other companies microcontrollers also in the market. So always the question is microprocessor versus microcontroller. What is better? What is difference between them? And what is used for what purposes? So you can see when everything is on a single chip like this, we call that one as a microcontroller, where you did not do much interface or external peripherals to make it to work as a system. Whereas in the earlier case of this microprocessor, we have seen that all the different peripherals has to be interfaced externally to make it to work as a system. Again, this particular image will show you what is what here. So in a microcontroller, you can see that even a microprocessor can be said to be as a part of a microcontroller. Obviously, the processing, the efficiency and the speed and all will be different for different devices. When we talk about a microprocessors in general, they are meant for very high efficiency and general purpose use, and microcontrollers are meant for working with a specific task with the full efficiency. So efficiency wise and overall efficiency wise, they both have their own definitions. Okay, the microprocessor is well and good at its field of applications, and even the microcontroller, where it applies to a specific task to be done perfectly, that also defines to its efficient work. So here in this particular slide, you can check it out. There are the table maintained to show the comparison between the microprocessors and microcontrollers. So here in a microprocessor, we can see that we have a standalone CPU, and all the other memory and IO devices and timers and serial ports has to be connected separately as an external module. whereas in the microcontroller everything is there on a single IC embedded, packed into a ready to use type of a design. And here in the microprocessor system, we have seen that the designer can decide upon how much amount of the memory. Obviously, there will be a limit of upper limit of how much it can be interfaced, but always there is a chance and a choice with the designer that how much memory it want to interface for performing and using that processor in a particular task. Whereas that thing is not flexible in that much flexible in the microcontrollers. Here we have inbuilt specific fixed memory such that it can be used for that particular operations with that limited memory only. Anyhow, nowadays microcontrollers also enhanced and a lot of options are there for extending its memories. So, but obviously the basic difference is that in a microprocessor system there is no constant of a fixed memory because it does not have any memory inside. Always a designer will choose that how much memory it has to interface with that microprocessor. Whereas in microcontroller, memories will be inbuilt available, RAM and ROM, and also inbuilt IO ports will be available for the use. Cost-wise, microprocessors are expensive, obviously, because they are meant for working general purposely. General purpose operations are what they are used for. That means you can take one microprocessor and perform all sort of different tasks with that particular thing. But microcontrollers are not that versatile and diverse functions it can perform. It is meant for performing a specific task and set of tasks assigned in a particular way, and what that particular applications it works and efficiently gives us the result. So microcontrollers are as a target specific limited scope will be there of working with the microcontrollers. Their cost also will be comparatively very less when compared to the microprocessors, because always microcontrollers are meant for to be working efficiently in a particular application design, and according to that their bulk manufacturing will be done. So obviously the cost will be reduced. And again, the last point, microprocessors are general purpose, which I was talking regularly continuously, and whereas the microcontroller are single purpose, or sometimes you can say some set of purposes assigned to it. Okay. And here, when we are working with the microcontroller, always will be one question that what is the way to select the microcontroller, because microcontroller has many things on the board, right, on the chip itself. So where and which features we have to check it to select the microcontroller so it will be best suited for our application. So here is a small quick guide of 3 points that we have to consider while selecting the microcontrollers. So here, meeting the computer needs and the task efficiently, the cost is also very effective. Okay. And when we see certain points here, the speed, the amount of the ROM, RAM, and number of IO ports and timer sizes, and packaging size and power consumptions are the important point to be taken into consideration when picking up or selecting a microcontroller. And always one more thing you have to check it out, that is it easy to upgrade for first of all, is it easy to upgrade a microcontroller for our design or for our application, and cost per unit is also has to be taken into consideration while before deciding the microcontroller to be selected for our particular applications. Another important point is that the availability of the software development tools for that particular hardware microcontroller IC what we are going to select and use for. Okay, we have to check it whether the assembler, debuggers, compilers, simulators all are available with a very good access to the particular programmer, because always without these things this microcontroller will be useless to be worked with. Okay, because unless you are unable to write a program and assemble or debug that one on it, it is useless that whether you select a particular controller or the other one. So we have to see the availability of the different resources which will be useful for the development of that embedded system around that microcontroller. One more point is that widely availability should be checked out, whether the resources the sources available for the microcontrollers are there or not, and if they are there, they are reliable or not, that has to be also taken care of. Here we see the features of microcontroller 8051. We'll be talking about the 8051 in this particular unit of ours. To start with, we have to tell that this is a microcontroller which is of a 8-bit processing capability. That means as we have seen, there is 16-bit processing capability in the microprocessor 8086, but here in a microcontroller 8051, the processing capability is that it can process only 8 bits at a time. So always it can work with the higher size of data, but that time the data has to be made into the packets of 8 bit each, such that the microcontroller can work with the each 8 bit packet of the data available. Here, next thing is that important feature of the 8051, that extensive Boolean processing can be done in the 8051. Like many operations, if you see in 8086, were of a byte operations and always word operations. Bit accessibility was not that much flexible and available in the microprocessors, but here bit accessibility in the 8051 microcontroller is very common. So that is why we call that as extensively Boolean processing is allowed, because single bit manipulations are very common in the 8051 type of design on a programming. Always all the bits, internal registers, many of them are bit accessible. Individual bits you can set or reset according to the programmer's requirement. Here, next important thing is that it has a 64 kilobytes of the memory addressing capability. That means 8051 microcontroller can address up to 64 kilobytes of the memory. So always this memory addressing capability is associated with the address lines available on that particular device. And here on this particular 8051, we have a 16 address lines, unlike the 8086 where we had 20 address lines. So always memory addressing capability is associated with the particular thing, that number of address lines are how much. And here in 8051, the number of address lines are 16. So 2 power 16 will give you the addressing capability of the particular device. So here that will be 64 kilobytes of the memory space which is addressable in the 8051 systems. Next, that is about the addressing capability, but here how much exact memory is inbuilt available to the programmer. Here we have 4 kilobytes of the memory on chip, the particular device, and this 4 kilobytes of memory is a ROM memory. Always understand the difference between the ROM and a RAM memory. So RAM memory is only available as a 128 bytes on chip on this 8051, but whereas ROM is available as 4 kilobytes. But always this 4 kilobytes of ROM is not limited to it, or you can extend it up to 64 kilobytes as mentioned in the earlier point. Continuing with a few more features of the 8051 is that here 32 bidirectional and individually addressable input-output lines, input-output port lines are available in 8051. Unlike the 8086 where we do not have any input-output port lines, but in 8051 we are having a total of 32 bidirectional input and output port lines, and all of them are individual bit-wise accessible. So you can make a particular pin on and off according to your requirement, as you will be doing in the Arduino microcontrollers. Okay, same way here the Arduinos are developed taking this 8051 as a base structure. Okay, next is that here we are having two 16-bit timer and counter registers. Timers are very essential. Here you see that when we have timers in the particular system, always we can monitor and count the events going on. Okay, so suppose I want to just make it my particular fan or a light on for a particular moment of time. After that I have to switch them off. I can write a simple program using my timer and counter that if the time extends to this particular time, switch off my light or a fan. Or a counter operation can be used for counting of events. Suppose you want to check it that how many persons are entering a room. You put a sensor there and persons entering room will be censored by that sensor, and you can always count that how many times that sensing has to be done and how many people entered in that room. The next another feature of the 8051 is that here we are having a full duplex UART. And what is UART? UART means Universal Asynchronous Receive and Transmit. You might have aware about the serial communications. Serial communications furthermore elaboratedly we'll be talking in our unit 3. Okay, but here let us have a brief understanding that serial communication ports are used for sending and receiving the data serially. That means there will be only a single line for exchange of the data. In full duplex, the number of lines will be 2, one each for transmit and for receive. Transmit lines will transmit the data in the bit sequence, one bit after another, and receive line will be used for receiving it. So full duplex means when it has two dedicated transmission and reception lines. Otherwise, the normal half duplex, when we call it, we have a common line for transmit and receive, and transmit and receive action will be taken upon that one after another. Okay, once it will be working as transmit line, other time it will be working as receiving line, and this the switching will be from transmit and receive will go on upon the half duplex type of system. Okay, but here in 8051 we have a full duplex, so that means here there are two dedicated lines for transmit and receive each. Okay, next about the interrupts in 8051, here we have a total of 6 sources of the interrupt, and that 6 sources of interrupt make up to 5 types of interrupts. What these 5 types of interrupts are there, and why this difference? 6 sources are there, but the 5 interrupts are there. It will also be stressed and discussed later. And here one more thing is that we have an on-chip clock oscillator for the 8051 system or 8051 IC. So on-chip clock oscillator is available. Just you have to plug in into your crystal oscillator to that pins and use the external oscillator when required. Otherwise, you can use the inbuilt oscillator for your clocking operations. Okay, this will be about the features of 8051. Next thing, we'll be checking out the block diagram of 8051. So what all the things are there in the block diagram of 8051 will be what we'll be checking out. So here you can see that the different blocks which are there in the 8051 IC. So here we have, starting with the CPU is there, okay, oscillator is there, interrupt controller will be there. Interrupt controller is one of the important thing to be had in the system. Our microprocessor 8086 does not have that interrupt controller within it, but always we can interface an interrupt controller externally in the 8086 system, which can control all its interrupt operations. Okay, but here that interrupt controller is available inbuilt. Also, we have the 4 kilobytes of ROM inbuilt, 128 bytes of RAM, and always apart from this 128 byte of RAM, we have a lot of general purpose registers which can be used for storing our data internally for while the program operations are going on. And we have 2 timers, and then there's timer 0 and timer 1. And earlier, just before this slide, we have discussed about that. One of the features that it has an inbuilt oscillator. So inbuilt oscillator is available here. Bus controller will be there here. As unlike within 8086 system where we have used bus controller 8284 externally to control the bus operations, specifically in the co-processor design or maximum mode of operations. But here the bus controller is available as a module or a block inside the 8051 IC itself. And we have 4 input-output ports in this 8051. So, namely, this processor's input-output ports are named as port 0, port 1, port 2, and port 3. So, these 4 I/O ports will be there on this one. And lastly, we have a serial port also, about which in the features we have talked that full duplex serial communication is there, or serial communication is possible into this 8051 system. So, this particular green line connecting all these modules is our system bus, which connects the processor with all the different modules available. Okay, and all the connections are available with the CPU. The oscillator is connected, the interrupt block is connected, interrupt controller block is connected, the ROM RAM is connected. Okay, timers are connected, bus controllers are there. Obviously, the bus controller takes the charge of the bus and handles and distributes the system bus according to the requirement of the individual modules in that controller. We have 4 I/O ports and the serial port available here. Always you can see that a crystal oscillator we are just connecting external to this particular device, and it gives a clocking to the 8051 system. So 4 I/O ports of this 8051 systems are, you can see named there, port 0, port 1, port 2, and port 3. These 4 are the I/O ports. Each one size is 8-bit in size. So that means 8 I/O lines are there on each port. So 8 4s, 32 I/O lines are there on total on 8051 microcontroller. Next, we can see that the timer 0 and timer 1, they are given with a particular input. So basically, timer 0s and timer 1 can take an input and time itself according to that particular event. It can be event counting, or it may be controlling the event happening, that how much time that event should go on. So these timers are meant for this purpose. So both the timers of 8086 are 16-bit in size. So if they are doing counting, you can check that they can do the counting from 0000 hexadecimal till FF hexadecimal. So about the serial port, you can see TXD and RXD, two dedicated lines for transmit and for receiving respectively. So full duplex type of serial communication is available. Here you can see 5 particular lines are coming into the interrupt controller block, 2 from the top and 3 from the side. All what these lines are, these are basically our 5 interrupt. Okay, so earlier in the features we have seen that 6 sources of interrupt and 5 interrupts are there in the 8051. So these 5, what they are, obviously I'll just list them for briefly for you. So here we'll be having timer 0 interrupt, timer 1 interrupt, external 0 interrupt, external 1 interrupt, and the last one is serial interrupt. Okay, and as a serial interrupt has this transmission interrupt and reception interrupt both, and they both are considered to be as a single unit of working serial interrupt. Apart from this all, we have a reset which interrupts the whole controller to make it itself a reset. So that will be all for our today's lecture. This was an introductory lecture to the 8051 microcontroller and unit 2 of our course. We shall be discussing into the depth of this particular unit from our next class, starting with the architecture of 8051. We shall be talking about the architecture of 8051 and then continuing various different things. So what in similar way what we have done for the 8086 microprocessor in unit 1. So thank you. See you in the next class. Bye.